Thank you, AIS, and thank you, Vinita, for this opportunity. And thank you also to the speakers who have covered quite a bit of biometry in special situations. I have no financial interest in any of the products mentioned. And, in this era where we have cataract surgery as a refractive surgery and patients' demands are high, they want to be spectacle free. So in this era, it becomes important to understand that although the newer generation IOL formulae, the advancement in biometry techniques, the advancements in IOL per se, a lot of these things have made it very easy, very good to be able to predict the IOL power to within 0.5 diopters in, say, about 85 to 90% of cases. But special situations continue to be challenging. So it is very important that when we are doing an IOL workup, we must be a part of the process. And it's also very important to go in gradually to personalize your e-constant. Preferably, we should go in for the newer generation formulae, and we should preferably use the better biometric technologies. Also, now we have access to a lot of IOL formulae online also. So multiple IOL formulae can be used in challenging cases. So cases where you have an extreme axial length or a steeper or a flatter cornea or an inter-eye asymmetry, or there is a mismatch with the refractive status, just keep your eyes open, double check all the values, validate the measurements. And also very important is to counsel the patient. So if you have a patient where you are not very confident about the post-op refractive outcome, you must discuss with the patient so they have reasonable expectations. Also, I think over time, we are in these challenging situations, even though there are multiple new formulae now, there can still be some errors. And we are all, I think, going a lot by, in certain select cases, also going a little bit by our clinical experience, on that set of patients. So what happens in these extreme of eyes is that it becomes difficult to predict the final resting position of the lens in the eye. So that is the effective lens power. So because of this, even if our measurements, which oftentimes are also prone to errors in these cases, the short and the long eyes, we may not get a very accurate measurement. The third issue, which is commonly there, is that the very high powers like plus 30D and all, there is availability and labeling issues also with regard to the lenses. So in patients, although we have, are you able to see my entire slide, or is it getting cut a bit, I think?
We can see it.
Okay. So although the formulas like the Holiday 2 have about 7 parameters that they are measuring, in the normal eyes, we may not even need more than the standard 3 because they have not found very statistically different results. However, these parameters, that we measure, they are based on this presumption that longer eyes have a deeper AC depth or shorter eyes have a shorter AC depth. But that happens only in about 10% of long eyes and about 20% of short eyes. So in the rest of them, the AC depth is not really dependent on the axial lens. So there is this factor that does come into play. In the newer generation formulae, one formula that is standing out a lot recently is the Barrett Universal 2. So this is giving us good results over the entire range of axial lens, and is being used, I think, also it's being incorporated in the newer biometer. So it is being used with a very good predictability in the extreme axial lens also. So important in these eyes is that when we acquire measurements, we should take multiple measurements. We should preferably use the optical biometry because there you are, visualizing the fovea. You are sure and confident of your axial lens measurement. And in the case that you don't have an optical biometer, you can go in for an immersion scan. In that case, preferably in the myopic eyes, you should go for the vector BA scan, where you are doing a B scan, identifying the fovea and taking the A scan at that point. What happens in myopes is that you may, in the extreme axial lens, you can have a posterior staphyloma, and that can confuse you, and you may take the anatomical axial length rather than the refractive axial length. So one has to be careful about that. Also, these eyes, they have a low scleral rigidity. So if we go in for a contact biometer, we will introduce an error likely. The Barrett Universal tool, like I've mentioned, has done fairly good predictability for these eyes. The other that is being recommended is the Van Gogh modified axial length. So in the eyes that have an axial length over 25.2 millimeter, you should modify the axial length and then fit it into the formulae. Because the IOL constants are not well suited to the long eyes. The Haigis formula allows optimization of constants and has been found to be more accurate in case you have axial lengths more than 30 or a cornea flatter than 43. Of course, the Hill RBF method, which is available online calculator and uses artificial intelligence and is based on multiple data entries, also can be used to, you can converge the results from various formula to see what is most likely to be near the endpoint that you are recommending. And of course, leave the patient towards the myopic side. With regard to extremely short eyes, again, prefer the optical measurements. And remember that the short eyes are very unforgiving. So very small errors in measurements are going to translate into a disproportionately large effect on the refractive outcome. So if you have an axial length of 20 and it's changed to 19 millimeters, the IOL power can change by as much as 5 diopters, or a small shift in what the calculated effective lens position is causes big surprises, because here the lens is closer to the fovea. If we use the ultrasound biometry, one can go in for the Hoffer Q, which is more accurate in these shorter axial lens. Otherwise, the Holiday 2 or the Barrett Universal 2, these are giving better results. And the Haigis can be used when the AC depth is less than 2.4 millimeters. The IOL labeling is an issue, especially in these hypermetropic eyes, because the IOLs are not available at 0.5 diopter gap, but rather at a 1 diopter gap over 30 diopters. And the labeling may also be a bit inaccurate. So it may be off the 0.4 diopters of the labeled power. Here again, we must aim for a slight myopia. And it's important, of course, in all these extreme axial lengths to also be very careful about your surgical technique and have a good well-centered rhexis and a well-centered IOL, so that, the number of variables that are there are reduced. So also do a specular in these eyes. And if the IOL power is, in the nanophthalmic range, then we can go in for a custom-made IOL. Yes, there's a lot of discussion whether one should use just one formula or go in, put in your results in multiple formulas. So I think if one goes by perhaps one or two, not one, but at least two formulae, and, personalize your set of cases over a period of time, your A constants, that does decrease the variability factor. As Vinita has already covered, if you have to go in for a sulcus placement, the effective lens position is moving more anteriorly, so you have to decrease the IOL power. And there are these charts that tell us how much to do so. Preferably, one should go in a single sitting for a single IOL rather than a piggyback, which one can reserve for patients with refractive surprises. And here the calculation, one just needs the refractive power. So you just need the myopic or the hyperopic correction that can be multiplied with the refractive error. And in the silicon oil, I'll just take half a minute more. So in the silicon oil filled eye, because the speed of sound is lower, we have to use a conversion factor to the measured axial length. And the IOL required is usually 3 to 3.5 diopters stronger than that indicated by the standard power calculation. If we are going in for a silicon oil removal, then we must keep in mind that we have to accordingly, assess the IOL power rather than if we are going in for a long-term silicon oil. Again, for aphakic, pseudophakic, and silicon oil filled eyes, we must prefer the optical biometry, which is going to give us a more accurate results than the immersion biometry. And in these eyes, we should plan the position of the IOL pre-operatively and then plan the power accordingly. So we must not, be the blind man. We must not just look at what we are able to see, but look beyond at all the parameters, at all the reports, and accordingly, we should fine-tune the IOL power after adequate monitoring of the patient. Thank you very much.